Hi everyone, welcome back to this series of PMP practice questions, ideal for preparing for your PMP exam or your CAPM exam, or even just for a little bit of project management practice. These ones in particular are waterfall questions, where we're looking at the sequential waterfall process and all of the stuff that goes into that, direct from the PMBOK Guide 6th edition, which is a huge tome of information, really wonderful, and quite tricky as well, scenario-based questions just like you'll find in the real exam. Let's get into it. We've got 10 questions. It's going to be a whole bunch of fun. You are nearing the end of a difficult project where the vendor providing the system to your company has taken longer than anticipated. The deliverables have been quality tested, validated, and verified. Okay, quality tested, validated with the project sponsor, and or validated against the acceptance criteria and verified with the project sponsor, probably accepted. Your project sponsor is keen to finish the project and close it off. What will you do next? All right, let's have a look. What do we do when we close off a project? Review the project management plan and approve change requests? I don't think so. Review the procurement agreement and accepted deliverables. If we're looking at a vendor, probably this one, I like that one. Review the requirements management plan and requirements traceability matrix. No, I don't think in particular requirements management plan, I don't think is relevant. It's more how we manage the requirements, not really for us here. Maybe outstanding risks and issues, but everything's already been tested and validated and signed off. And any approved change requests, maybe, but I think the best answer for us being a vendor, let's go with answer C. All right, excellent. With the closing phase of a project, the procurement agreements of the accepted deliverables and the accepted deliverables are inputs to close the project. When the project deliverables have been verified, they're accepted by the project sponsor, and you can close the project or phase. And there it is in the PMBOK Guide, page 124, close project or phase, if you want to check that out for yourself. And that was a nice, easy one to start off with, I think. So I hope, that was pretty good. But also, a little bit of learning about the procurement process. So that's also pretty good. Now, next question. You're managing a team through a difficult project, which has been made more difficult by many team members being new and inexperienced, and not having the right capability to get the work done. You're getting pressure from your steering committee to improve the performance of your project. What will you do next? So we have not got the right capability, and we're getting pressure to improve the performance of the project. Okay, let's see what options we have here. Use Tuckman's ladder of forming, storming, norming, performing with your team. Usually that's a guide for where we are. So are we in the storming stage? Are we in the norming stage? I don't think we can use that with the team particularly. It's more of a guide for where we are. So let's say no for that one for now. Use co-location, so getting everyone together, a shared knowledge portal, training and team assessments. And I like the training idea because we're trying to raise the capability. But co-location, people can learn from each other just by picking up stuff and conversations in the office as well. So that's also really good. And it's been lost a little bit with a lot of remote work, but it's starting to come back. So you will see this come back more and more. Team assessments as well to see how the team is going. I think this one is looking really good. Let's see what else we have just in case. Use conflict management, influencing and emotional intelligence to get your team on side. They're pretty good things, but probably not as extremely relevant to the question here for capability and performance. And use brainstorming and root cause analysis to get to the heart of the problem. I love this as well, really good answer, but I think for our purposes, the best one is answer B, and there it is. This example is referencing the process of developing the team in resource management. Tools and techniques in this process include co-location, interpersonal skills, communication technology, training, team assessments, recognition and rewards, and more. And all of those things are really good to know and understand in the real world as well. Training, communication technology, how are we going to use those things to build our team and build the resources within our team? Co-location, interpersonal skills, really important stuff, and it delves into it in a bit more detail in the PMBOK Guide, page 340 to 342 under Develop Team Tools and Techniques. So really worthwhile checking that out. not just for the exam, but actually, for use in the real world as well. How did you go for that one? That was really, really good. All right, I think these are getting pretty good. Let's see what the next question holds as well. You've planned the scope, schedule, cost, and resources with your team. You've also identified a large number of risks within the project. Okay, could be a clue for us. You're in the process of assigning the probability and impact to the risks when one of the risks occurs. Okay, so something's actually happened. Your project sponsor immediately worries about a worst case scenario, but what will you do next? So we've got the probability and impact of the risks, and one of the risks has actually happened. So how do we deal with that? Okay, let's see what options we have. Utilize the management reserve for your project to mitigate the risk. Now remember, management reserve is more about scope, so any unforeseen scope, but still in scope for the project that we didn't see coming, so any dollars assigned that we need to use for any scope that we didn't see coming, but that we still want to do for our project. I don't think that's going to be in use for us here. Review or create the risk response, that could be good, in the risk register, and then use the appropriate contingency reserve to implement it. Okay, this is really good as well, because the contingency reserve is about known unknowns. In other words, known risks for our project. So we give our budget, there's our budget, we add a little contingency reserve on top. That becomes our project budget, which we add the management reserve for unforeseen scope on the top of that. So contingency reserve is for risks that we have an idea that might be coming. And I think that's what's actually happened here. So I think B is probably going to be our one. Let's see what else we have just in case. Perform quantitative analysis on the risk to ensure you know how much it will cost. And quantitative is more of your financial, and it's more in-depth analysis on your risks. So usually about how much it will cost, maybe scenarios or simulations. So Monte Carlo simulation, for example, runs of 1,000 different variations of how the risk might play out. So that's your quantitative analysis, very in-depth, usually financial as well, but not for us here. Accept the risk for now, as the risk analysis is not yet complete, and I think we could do better than that. We still need to have a response, and that's what we're talking about. So let's go with answer B. And there it is. This scenario describes performing qualitative risk analysis. Once done, risks are placed in the risk register with their responses, and an appropriate contingency reserve is added to the work package for these known unknown risks. So we know they're coming, but we just don't, risks are inherently unknown things. That is why we treat them as risks. And here it is, page 440 in the PMBOK Guide, 6th edition, if you want to check that out for yourself. And risk register is the section. Really worth checking out. All right, next question. A significant change has been made to the project scope after finding a serious system flaw. This scope change will impact the scope, cost, and schedule of the project. You analyze the impacts to each, raise an issue in the issue log, and are about to raise a change request. What will you do next? So we've analyzed the impacts, that's fantastic. We've raised an issue because the issue's already happened, and we need still to raise a change request. So how do we go about that? Let's see what options we have here. Review the configuration management plan for the baseline project items. So with this, the configuration management plan shows us which items need to go through the change control process. But I think we already know that because we're actually about to raise a change request. We already have looked at the impacts and we're nearly there. So I think that one can be ruled out. Add the detail as a project delivery risk in your risk register. Again, this one is if we're looking at issues, it's already happened. So a risk is in the future. So, and then when it happens, it becomes an issue, and then we need to make a change with a change request. I think we're well past the idea of logging it as a risk already. Update the change log and implement the changes required. Okay, that could be quite good. So update the change log when we have a change request. I think that's a good thing. And then implement the changes required. I'm not sure if we're quite there yet though. So this one's a maybe. Let's see what else we have. Check the change management plan Well, that looks promising. For the change control board members and process. Okay, I think that's probably going to be our one here, because we're looking at the process for our change request. We definitely need to know that. And also the change control board. So who do we go to with our change request? Plus it's good practice to look for that process in the change management plan. And then once we have raised that change request, we can log that in the change log. And once it's approved, then we can implement the changes required. So I think for our purposes, let's go with answer D. All right, there it is. Perform integrated change control process includes a change control board, CCB, which is a formally chartered group responsible for reviewing, evaluating, approving, deferring, or rejecting changes to the project, and for recording and communicating such decisions. So once they approve it, then we all go about and we communicate that back to the stakeholders. Was it approved? Was it rejected? And why? And the change management plan provides direction for managing that change control process. So how do we go about it? And documents the roles and responsibilities of the change control board. And this could be many different things in your project. It could just be the project manager. It could be just the project sponsor. It could be a whole steering committee. It could be a bunch of executives in your organization. So it depends on the project and how it's set up. And if you want to check out that in more detail, page 116 in the PMBOK guide, change management plan. All right. Getting a little bit trickier, that one actually. So that was good. The change process, very good to know. Next question. 5 major defects have been found during quality testing, resulting in the scope changing significantly and affecting your schedule and budget. You have analyzed the impacts and raised change requests for each. Okay, great. So we've analyzed those impacts, raised those change requests. The change control board has approved 2 changes, rejected 2 changes, and deferred 1. And so once they do this, as we said, then we need to communicate that back to the stakeholders. So this could be where we're heading here. Let's have a look. Record the outcomes in the change log. I think that's very promising. And communicate the deferred and rejected changes to the change requester. I think that's actually very promising. That could be our one here. But let's have a look at what else we have just in case. Review and reprioritize the project scope to fit the must-have items into delivery. I think we still need to go to the change process, through the change process, so not for now. Raise a risk, again, it's already happened. So we're well past the idea of risks happening. It's already an issue and it's already become a change. So we'll say no to that one for now. Raise a claim on the affected changes to give them a better chance of approval. That's when we're working with a vendor. So claims are if there are contested changes that need to be made on your project, working with a vendor that you don't agree that they delivered what they said they were going to deliver. So we make a claim and then we go through the claims process. But we don't need that for now, so I think for our purposes it's going to be answer A. All right, good stuff. So the outcome of all change requests are recorded in the change log, and deferred or rejected change requests are communicated to the person or group requesting that change. Very important to know, and also really good to do in your actual project career, communicating, making sure people are coming along on that journey with you so they're all on board and staying on side. Really, really good stuff. Page 120 in the PMBOK Guide 6th edition if you want to check that out for yourself. All right, and I think we're nearly halfway through this little section here, so you're doing great, guys. Keep going. This is really, really good. You're working through the scope of a newly kicked off project. The senior user is unsure on how the requirements and scope come together to create a deliverable that will work for him and the functional manager. Your program manager suggests you use decomposition. In this circumstance, what will you do next? Okay, is this just about decomposition, which is basically a work breakdown structure? So there's the feature, there are the parts that make up the feature, and here are the work packages that we assign and that someone can actually physically create as part of your project, and you can assign them to someone to do. So I think that's probably where we're going here. Estimate activity resources for who is required to deliver the item. I don't think that's decomposition, so no. Define a project scope for the functional manager. I mean, that could be good. Let's put a maybe for that one. Create a work breakdown structure and define the activities in your schedule. I think that's probably one of the better ones because it's that decomposition is a work breakdown structure. and create the project charter and the project management plan for a clear view of the project. I mean, definitely a good thing to do, but not for where we're heading here. I think if these two things match up, I think we should go with answer C. Let's see. All right, excellent. Decomposition is breaking things down. It's decomposing into smaller and more manageable parts. It's a tool and technique for both create work breakdown structure and to define activities processes. So among all, option C is the right answer. And we've got page 156 and page 185 in the PMBOK Guide 6th edition if you want to check that out directly. That's a great waterfall guide. Also has some agile tools in there as well, adaptive tools. It really is a wonderful tome on project management. How did you go for that one? I thought that was quite good. I don't know if they're getting easier or if we're getting better, but you know, it hasn't been too bad this round. So hopefully we don't jinx ourselves on this one. All right, next question. You have been assigned to take over a project in your organization and it has gone off track, with scope creep causing the schedule and cost to increase. Okay, you can't quite understand the current cadence and the way of working within the team, so you decide to find out their development approach, including any modifications. What will you do next? Okay, so we're going off track, not good, but what is their development approach? So how are we actually developing the thing? I think that's probably what this question is mostly about. Let's have a look. Review the project charter, as this was the original agreed document. I think we could do better than that for our project cadence. I think it's probably more in the project management plan actually. So let's see if that comes up. Review the schedule management plan, as this will have team cadence schedules. That's more about the schedule of the deliverables than the team cadence schedules. So that's a no for that one. Review the project management plan, as this will house the cadence approach. I think that's probably going to be our one there. And review the stakeholder register for stakeholder cadence needs. And I don't think that's it. Stakeholder register has who our stakeholders are and, you know, do they have a high impact or influence, and how often, you know, what are their needs on the project and what are their requirements usually, how that ties in with our project. So I think for us, let's go with answer C. And there it is. The development approach, including any modifications, is included in the project management plan. This defines whether predictive, iterative, agile, or a hybrid approach will be used on your project. So that's really, really good to know. That's where you're going to find it. And also that's where we will put it when we're creating our artifacts in our own projects as well. Very handy. Page 88 in the PMBOK Guide 6th edition, if you want to check that out for yourself. All right, how did you guys go with that one? That was pretty good as well. And we've only got a couple to go in this little section, so I think you're doing amazing. I think together we're getting through this. This is going really, really well. All right, you're working on a complex engineering project where a significant amount of risk has been found with your team and the customer. The functional manager approaches to ask if she can work with your team to plan any risk responses. You agree to help her update the risk register with, okay, planning risk responses. I think that's what we're looking at here. Risk triggers, agreed response strategies, and residual risks after mitigation. Oh, I think that's a great answer, that one. So we're looking at, you know, what are those risk responses? They need to be triggered. We need to have a strategy for responding to them. And what happens, how much risk is left once we have responded? I think that's probably going to be our answer actually, you know, make it nice and easy for us. Let's see what else we've got just in case. Risk contingency reserves, quantitative analysis, that's our financial analysis that we were looking at before, or, you know, very in-depth risk analysis, simulations and that sort of thing. Financial impact responses, that's more of your quantitative risks as well. The list of risks, their probability and impact, and their overall risk rating, that is just the risk assessment. So I think that's close actually, but it's not directly related to risk responses. So that one's a close one. I like it, but this one is still better. Okay, what's our last one? Risk owners, assumptions, and mitigations. That is also good. I really like that one as well. That's a high maybe, but again, best response for us is in line with risk responses directly. I think we're going to go with answer A. All right, thank goodness. This situation is describing the plan risk responses process. The risk register is updated with information like agreed upon response strategies, triggers, warning signs of risk occurrence, so it could be happening on the horizon, residual risks that are expected to remain, so what's left over because they're deliberately accepted, and the risk register is an output of this process. Well, that's also very good to know. So at the end of the day, we're going to have the risk register. So that's very good. And we've got page 448 in the PMBOK guide in that risk section there, if you want to check that out for yourself, and that's where that answer came from. Really great work. That's amazing. And you know what else is amazing? We're down to the last 2 questions for this particular section. So you're doing great, guys. Last 2. Keep going. We're nearly there. Your project is nearing completion, just like we're nearing completion of this little question set here, so that's really wonderful. You have monitored and controlled quality through testing and risks with mitigations throughout your project life. The project sponsor is concerned that she won't know if the product being delivered has the desired effect on her business area once it is released. What will you do next? So how do we know if the project had the desired effect? What's the benefit? How do we know that they got that benefit? Usually this is in the benefits management plan, I think. So, I mean, if we see something there, that's probably going to be it. Oh, and I've just drawn all over it. But you know what? Oh, I see it there. Consult the benefits management plan and act in accordance to that process. I think that probably could be our one. What else have we got just in case? Quality management, that's for our testing. Business case, oh, that could be it. But the business case will have the reason why we're doing the project, not how we match up the benefits of the project. So close, but not quite. And consult the risk register. Well, they always just want to throw risks in here as well. It's like, we're past risks at this point again. But they just love throwing risks in there. Who doesn't love risk on their project after all? But for us to reduce that risk, I think let's go with answer B. All right, excellent work. What the sponsor is talking about here is the benefit to her business when we're delivering our project. The value, the business value. The benefits management plan is a type of business document that describes how and when the benefits will be delivered, the process that should be in place to measure those benefits. So how are we measuring it? During closing, it's reviewed to measure whether the benefits of the project were achieved as planned. Page 125 under Benefits Management Plan in the PMBOK guide if you want to check that out. And also what I want to check out is the last question for this little tiny section of questions that we are working through, and you and I are working through together, and we've done an amazing job. Good team, doing great. Let's get into this one. You are the project manager, which is a good thing, on a high-profile software project that involves automation technology not used before in your company. Because of this, your team have no resources to complete that part of the project. Okay, the steering committee approves outsourcing this work. Okay, so we haven't used it before, no one understands it, so we need to use a vendor to complete this. So we need a suitable vendor. What will we do next? Okay, perform a make or buy analysis to ensure a correct decision. I think we're already past that. We already know if we're going to make or buy. We pretty much know that we need to buy it. So I think we can say we're past that section for now. Approach your procurement department, which is good for our vendors, for a suitable contract to proceed with, such as cost plus incentive fee. I think for outsourcing, that's probably going to be good. Create the procurement statement of work and source selection criteria. That actually sounds really good as well. I think we'd probably do this before this one actually, so that could be good as well. Review the current agreements and change requests impacting third-party work. Current agreements, I don't think we need to go there just yet, so we can rule that one out. We don't, change requests might happen once the work starts, perhaps, but probably not before then. So do we create the procurement statement of work? That's what we need them to deliver, yes. And the source selection criteria. So they've approved outsourcing the work to work with a suitable vendor. I think we need to find a suitable vendor, and we use source selection criteria to find that. So what's the criteria that we're using to find our vendor? I think this is quite tricky, but the best answer for us, I think, might be answer C. Let's see. All right, excellent. Wow, that was a little bit tricky. In this scenario, we're in the beginning stages of procuring a vendor. The right process is plan, procurement, management, where the outputs are to create the procurement statement of work and the source selection criteria so that we can find those vendors, and that's really good. Other items are the bid documents, like a request for proposal or a request for quote, for example, and the procurement strategy. So what is the strategy that we're taking? And so that's outlined from start to finish. The time for make or buy analysis has passed with the third-party approach already being approved. Page 460, 477, 478 in the PMBOK guide, right there if you want to check it out. And that is a wonderful thing because we have finished these 10 questions and you have done such an amazing job. But not only that, you're doing something that is extremely powerful for your career, but also for your life. As you can see, all of these things, in your life of business and in your career, you're going to need to work with third parties. You're going to need to work with people and get people on side and communicate changes and make changes to make a difference in your company and in your life. So all of these tools are going to help you no matter where you go. You're doing something truly, truly great. I hope to see you in the next video. Bye for now.